Welcome to the RIP 28 podcast. The RIP 28 podcast. This is a spot where a couple of brothers can get together, talk about a few issues going on in our community, have a little bit of fun, and just keep talking about stuff that some people want to talk about, some people don't care to talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyway. All right, I am your host, Sly Williams. They call me Sly the Sports Guy, but I am joined by a couple of my dear friends. We'll start off in the top left corner over there, Mr. L. Beasy, LeBron, the educator's educator. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? It's Beasy the Great, the educator's educator, here for another great show with the RIP 28 podcast. You know how we do.
Yeah. We're going to go in the other corner down there. The Salt Man himself. What's going on, Mr. Salt?
What's going on, family? It's your man Salt, ready to chop it up with the fellas. Always remember, love conquers all. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Now we got a special guest here on the RIP 28 podcast. Today, we want to talk about something that's going on and affecting us because, hey, we're all black men, so we want to talk about something that's not really talked about with a lot of black men today, and that's your mental health. You know, how are you doing mentally? What's going on inside your head? So what we do, we decided if we talk about it, you know, we just going to talk shit to each other and laugh or whatever. So why not? Let's get a professional. Let's get Columbia, South Carolina's very own, a graduate of the great Eau Claire High School, also Benedict College, your therapist, you know, the founder, the CEO and the founder of Ford Counseling and Consulting, Mr. J. Zachary Little. How you doing, Mr. Little? Oh, wait. Esteemed author, award-winning author, J. Zachary Little.
Feel good, man.
What's up, Jay?
What's up, y'all? I feel good to be here. Good to see y'all. Hope drop some nuggets and ready to do it.
All right, man. We're glad to have you here, Jay. Just so we can learn some new things about ourselves, learn some things that'll make us go well, make us be all right, be all right mentally. But before we get into that, man, we love to have viewer feedback. We love to have people tell us about ourselves, tell us everything that's going on. Man, we can be contacted in a variety of ways. You can hit us on Twitter at the RIP 28 podcast, on Facebook, we're RIP 28, Instagram, RIP 28 podcast. Those of you watching on YouTube, those of you watching on SoundCloud, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe to all of our different sites and all our different avenues and ways of listening to us. We would definitely appreciate it. And speaking of appreciate it, another thing we would also like to appreciate, hey, we can be brought. I'm not going to lie to you. We can be brought. So we're looking for people who want to sponsor, who want to post your ad here, post your business here. Make sure you reach out to one of us. Reach out to us on email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you want to do it. Reach out to us. And so we'll make sure we can get your ads on our airways. But what we're here for, we're here to talk to a licensed therapist, a licensed counselor, because let's be honest, man, we as black folk, man, we got some issues. We got some things going on that we need to talk about, get out on the table. But a lot of us, we're fighting the stigmas in our community about, no, I don't want to talk to a counselor. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But we got a guy who is a common sense counselor, We got a homeboy from the hood who can talk to us the way we would understand it. And that's Jay Little. And so now we just want to bring Jay here. And so Jay can inform us and teach us a little bit while we're on the show. Now, one of the problems I had, one of the things I didn't know was what was the difference between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, but Jay, maybe you can help us out. Tell us what's the difference between these things.
So the short answer to that is, first and foremost, psychiatrist is an MD. So a psychiatrist is a doctor. So a psychiatrist is gonna have to go to medical school. They're gonna have a background in biology, and they can prescribe prescriptions. They can do evaluations, and they can also do psychotherapy. So psychiatrists are, pretty much, you go to those guys if you really have a deep-rooted mental issue. Then there are psychologists. So basically, psychologists can provide psychotherapy, which is talk therapy, and they can also evaluate. So they can evaluate and say, this person is a paranoid schizophrenic, and that actually goes into a file somewhere and sticks. The psychotherapy and evaluation. And then you have like counselors, social workers, therapists, things of that nature. And basically what we do is our primary tool is psychotherapy. We can provide an initial diagnosis, but it's not anything that'll stay with you. If we refer you out to a psychologist or a psychiatrist for something else, then they can make that final determination. But our primary tool is psychotherapy. Does that make any sense? That makes sense for you?
I think so. What about you fellas?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's now, me personally, I got a preacher. Why I need to talk to you? Why as a black man, why do I need to go to a counselor? I got a preacher. You know what I'm saying? I got some homeboys, whatever. A lot of this stuff I can keep inside me. I don't need you. Why I need to talk to you?
Well, I'll say this. There are two things. I got a stat and I got two short stories. So number one, you want to talk to someone who is a professional. I know that, pastors are professionals when it's talking about religion and when it's talking about God. I've been to a pastor before for counseling myself, and it was not what I expected. So you want to make sure that you have someone that is trained in mental health counseling that can deal with the issues you have, that is familiar with these things. And I just saw last week, according to a fact sheet done by NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Blacks who deal with mental illness and chemical dependency tend to look for help in churches, family, primary care physicians, and other community institutions, rather than seeking help from a mental health physician or a mental health professional. So they feel just like you. But, if you come to someone like myself or, a psychologist, psychiatrist, they're going to be able to pinpoint things that you have an issue with. And, you want to come to somebody, like I said, I'm not trying to say anything negative about anybody else. You really just want to come to somebody that can deal with the issues you have. There's nothing wrong with going to your real, nothing wrong with talking to somebody. And as a matter of fact, the last story that I was going to tell was this. I go to a church here in Columbia, South Carolina. I was having a lot of issues in my life some years ago. And our pastor actually preached a message. He has a background in counseling. But he said, he was talking about, my lighter brothers gonna look for a couch to sit on. But when it comes to my people, a lot of times we try to hold stuff in to keep that stuff in. And if you're a believer in God, I'm not asking if you are or you ain't. If you're a believer in God, there are tools out there that you can use to further your life. And one of the tools is someone that's a trained professional.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Jay, I got a question for you.
What's that?
Why is there a negative connotation around mental health professionals? Why do you think counselors, therapists, why do they have such a bad, such a negative connotation around their profession and what they do?
I think it's a couple of things. I think I'm gonna try to make sure I get them all. Number one, nobody wants to be labeled, and I think that a lot of people believe that when you come to a mental health professional, you're going to be labeled and you're going to be looked at a certain way. You're going to be stigmatized. Another thing is, especially in the Black community, we see ourselves as, unicorns. We see ourselves, we can take everything. We went through slavery, we've gone through racism, we've gone through a ton of things in this country, and we survived. We are survivors. So a lot of times we've gotten things from our parents, our grandparents, and people way back, and they're saying, hey man, you can handle it. And you can handle it, but it's going to leave an issue, and it might leave a mark. It might leave a scar. There are some people, some psychologists and psychiatrists that are doing work right now, and they're talking about how slave and race trauma may be passed through DNA going forward right now to some of us. So, you know, imagine that some things in your DNA with you from the very moment you were born are passed down because your great granddaddy got beat down, you know. So that's I think that's a part of, you know, we think that we can handle anything, and to an extent we can, you know, but there's always a way, and there's always options to deal with things better. As you know more, you do more. You know better, you do better.
Okay.
Right. I had one follow-up question. What are some of the most common mental issues that you see in Black men? As Sly said, and as everyone can see, we're dealing with 4 Black men. What are some of the most common issues and mental health issues you come across with Black men in general?
So in general, the general stuff is going to be about the same for everybody, but the thing that we always have an issue with is just racial trauma. We're trying to deal with a whole lot of things we see from day to day. Some of us are living 2 lives. You know, some of us are trying to make it in 2 different worlds. We're not being balanced. Depression is always, anxiety, and feelings of self-love and self-worth. And there are myriad of reasons, a ton of reasons why people go through stuff like that. But, you know, racial trauma is a really big thing in our community. And right now, with what we have going on, you know, that stuff is at the forefront. We can see it. It's not just something we talk about that happened years ago anymore. It's in your face. So that's probably what I see. Yeah.
Yes, sir. No doubt. No doubt.
I got a question for you, Jay. So, kind of sample scenario. Um, you know, you kind of touched on kind of some of the common things that you deal with, but say, you know, Black male, you know, working kind of just an average Joe, family life, um, and I have things going on in my life. At what point would you suggest for somebody to reach out or to do some assessment to say maybe, hey, maybe I need to speak to someone, you know, because of this type of situation or whatever I'm dealing with? At what point, what type of assessment should someone get to that realization to say, you know, maybe I should talk to someone to kind of get me through this?
Okay. Honestly, and again, it's gonna sound simple, man. When you're uncomfortable with something, you know, if you're uncomfortable enough with it to know that there's an issue, go ahead and talk to somebody. Being a counselor, being a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, we all have a code of ethics. So, you know, if you come to me, so like let's say you came to me, the first thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna discount the problem that you had. But if it's something that, you know, may not take a long time to deal with, you're not going to sit there forever. You're not going to, you know, do a whole lot of stuff. I'm not going to hold you too long, but I'm also not going to, like I said, discount your problem. There's no harm in asking. I think that's probably the best answer for that question. You don't want to wait until something gets to a point where you're not able to deal with it. If you think that, you know, if you got a, you know, especially when people deal with death, you know, your grandma died, your cousin died, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, most of the time that's a good time to deal with a counselor. You're probably dealing with and going through things and showing signs to your family and friends that you might not even be aware of. So if you are uncomfortable with your feelings, you know, if you are losing sleep, if your eating habits have changed, if the way you deal with people has changed, if people are telling you, hey man, you know, I just want to check on you. You know, don't take those as people being, you know, too much in your face all the time. Don't take those as, you know, somebody, they just trying to get in my business. Somebody telling you that they care about you and they love you, your loved ones, that might be a time you really need to take a second and say, hey, well, let me see what I do need to do.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, you guys. Well, let me. Another thing I'm kind of curious about. What we want to bring up is when you deal with. All right. Well, everybody got to work with a budget. You know, everybody got to work with a budget and work with a budget. And I think a lot of something that kind of scares people away from going to counseling is, I don't want to spend all this money in counseling. So what's your answer to that? How do you work with that? Work with people's budgets, man. Let's be honest. Work with the money.
That's a complex question, right? So there's two sides of it, and there are therapists on one side who deal, we deal with it the same way. So most good therapists are helpers by nature. And we've been trying to help people all our lives. And we may have come into this profession. We may have fell into it. We may have known we were going to do it for years. And one thing that I won't say argue, we discuss within ourselves, even in therapy groups that I'm on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that, people are always like, man, what do you think I should charge? What do you think I should be charging for people who actually need help? There's almost always, an avenue for you to get help if you need it based on your budget. Now, the caveat to that is, another part of that is we spend a lot of money on a lot of things, and we have to value our mental health just like we value everything else. You got to pay, if you got to pay a custom J's in the closet $550, and you telling me you can't pay, $50 a session. I mean, where's your value? Where's your values at? So that's another thing. But there are, I can think off the top of the head, the best place to go, honestly, if you are dealing with issues in your budget, man, your local state department. Your state department usually, especially here in South Carolina, the state department is going to deal with like a sliding scale. So they're already going to deal with kind of, where you are as far as your pay grade. And the other thing is they're never going to turn you away. You could have an astronomical bill, and they're not going to turn you away. So that would be the first thing. There are other new areas, like there's this one, because I felt something within myself. I wanted to help, people who can't deal with it. Now, it won't be free, but there's this one site, like if you don't have insurance, it's called Open Path Collective. And they start out with sessions as low as like $30 for people that don't have therapy. Or you can talk to a therapist in your area, and just be honest with them. They'll evaluate it for them, but almost every therapist I know has their own sliding scale. And almost every therapist I know is seeing, probably one or two people for the low, for the free, whatever the case may be. So, and if they can tell that you really have an issue, and they can tell that you really need help, you're being really genuine, the biggest thing is, again, just reaching out. But the last thing I'll say is this: I know it can be hard to reach out, number one. That's the first thing. And if you don't have the money, or you think you don't have the money, that could be that could be something else you have to deal with in yourself just to reach out to somebody. But yeah, there's always an avenue to find affordable therapy. Always an avenue to find affordable.
Okay.
All right, Jay, I'm gonna take this to the other side with kids. I work with kids. I work in the elementary school and I coach high school football, basketball. What are some of the signs that we should be on the lookout for with kids that may be dealing with anxiety, depression, other mental health issues that we may overlook because we have so many kids that we have to see per day? And I deal with kids that have what we call behavior issues, or those that are that may be having some trouble in other areas. So what are some signs that I could be looking for that are kind of right there in my face that I may miss on a daily basis?
So I guess, and you probably already know some of this stuff, and you probably already know this because, like I said, you deal with those kids. But you just want to look for changes in patterns. You want to look for, if a kid tells you, yeah, man, like if a kid comes out to you, and I know you're dealing with young people, so number one, it's already kind of like, I ain't gonna say a crapshoot, but you know how young people are. We were all young people at one point. We smart at the mouth. We do a whole lot of stuff, but it can be challenging. But if they say they got, if somebody comes to you got family problems, or you notice that they may be sleeping a little more in class or in detention. If they are not eating, if they've lost some weight, if they're being irritable, if they have different risk factors, if they've been caught, like if a kid been caught with drugs for the first time, and it's like, man, I know you don't do that. You're not about that. Just different things. You're always just trying to catch that pattern, because honestly, and I think that most therapists agree with this, most of what therapy is you're trying to correct patterns. You're trying to correct patterns of thoughts. You're trying to correct patterns of people's lives and correct patterns of people's actions. So you're just looking for patterns, man. You're just looking for patterns, like sleepy, irritable, if they're telling you, family stuff is happening, and you just noticing a general change, And I know, again, if you, like, my oldest niece, she in college right now, she sleeps all day. It's sick. It's sick. But, that's just, that is what it is. So, but make sure that that's something she do normally. So she just a trip.
Right.
But, you just looking for those patterns that's changing, basically.
Changing, like one thing that I noticed with kids that may be having problems either in school or outside of school, it was a sudden change in their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We had like some kids would come in and they were always on the ball, homework turned in, classwork, projects, but then all of a sudden now they're having recess taken away. They're being sent to ISS. They're having to be sent to another teacher on that grade level. So I have noticed some of those things, and I think you were right on with that, just from my observation, in my eyes. So a sudden change in behavior usually means something is going on, and that you may just want to check on it, even if it's not much.
And one more thing I'll say, and this is something that frustrates me in systems, and I can't say too much. Because of, confidentiality and all that stuff. But especially with our folks, especially with our people, and I've seen this with my own 2 eyes, and you may have seen this too. We have certain, like, you got school psychologists. They may say, little Johnny got all the criteria for ADHD. But little Johnny gonna, he gonna be all right. We're gonna wait on Johnny. But if it's, I'm getting pissed off saying it, like, but if it's Jamal, Jamal need to go straight down there and see somebody. We need to put a diagnosis on Jamal. So that's something that really upsets me. And as parents, especially, we need to really be vigilant and a part of our children's lives, because people will label the same thing you said that we talking about they're afraid of. People will label your children. I got a daughter right now, and we're trying to make sure, she's got a developmental delay. She was born as a preemie, but it's not anything that's, so far it's not, like autism, anything like that. So we're waiting on, some evaluation. But I'm gonna be a daddy, and I got a book, and I can read a book. So if you're telling me that this is something you see here, then you got to show it to me. It's got to be consistent, and I'm still gonna be on you, and I'm still gonna double check it later. So that's just the stuff that we have to deal with, man, as folks.
It's interesting that you brought up book. I want to sidebar just a little bit. Because I think what you also do that's real valuable to our community and real valuable to us, you're an author too. And, you co-author, authored 2 books. And if you could hold them up for us, let the people know what you have done and where they can buy these books to support you.
Right. So this is, let me show you, this is my first book. It's called Love Story. And it was just basically like a little inspirational story. My first go out, just talking about a brother's love. The boy's name is Love, and just talk about his love for his family. He went through a tough time, and this is actually before I became a counselor, but it was a lot of counseling in it just to tell him how to deal with it. This is my second book, and my current book just released in January, called Young Brother, You Got It. And with this book, my goal was to provide positive affirmations for young Black males. And I really wanted to make sure that when Black males see themselves, they can see something positive. And I'm really excited about the amount of Black authors we have now. Because when we was in school, we was kids, I think my dad might have got me one set of books with Black kids in them or Black people. We learned about Black history and all that. But there was not so much stuff as we have right now to get our kids, and I really did that. So I wanted to jump in myself and see what we could do.
That's pretty good, Jay. I definitely will talk to you after we get off air, so we can I can definitely put that in my classroom, man. I appreciate that.
Sure, appreciate
it. And Jay, I just want to go to 2 points real quick. So one thing you mentioned earlier about people not invested in themselves, I thought that was really powerful. And that is one thing that, in our community, we don't really do as well. We'll invest in other tangible things and not really invest in ourselves. And again, mental health is a real thing. It's a real thing that people deal with and should be taken more serious. But also, too, I just want, if you can kind of just elaborate a little bit more, or just let the people know what are some avenues if they do find themselves, hey, maybe I do need to reach out to somebody. What's a good starting point, so that they don't kind of go stray the wrong direction. Should it be a psychologist? Should it be a therapist or a counselor? Just what's that starting point that would be good for them to start?
Starting point is go quick Google search, look up therapists in your area. There are some other. I'm gonna try not. Okay, so starting point would be a Google search. And I would say talk to a therapist. You can start with a counselor. They should be able to, elaborate a little bit on if, something may be, well, they're not, we're not trying to scare you. So we ain't gonna say, that's serious, you need to do all, but they can point you in the right direction. But there are other places like the National Institute of Mental Health. See, we got SAMHSA, the Mental Health Services Administration. The number for the Mental Health Services Administration is 1-800-662-HELP. Another thing is, like, you got, especially if it's serious. So if it's suicide, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Mental Health America, and a couple others. And I'll tell you, I'll be real honest with you. It's really, I'm not gonna say it's really good, but there are other avenues that we can take to take care of our mental health. I know some of us like to go to Instagram. We like to look at the Instagram model, right? Look at slide giggling. Look at slide giggling.
That's another kind of therapy right there.
That's another kind of therapy, right? But like on Instagram, there's some really good sites or some really good accounts that really deal with it. Now I'll give you a couple, like it's Black Men Heal, Melanin and Mental Health, Mr. Philip Roundtree, Ford Counseling, bang, Mr. Jason Wilson, Healing While Black, and Black Self-Care Talk. So there are a lot of different options, and there are a lot of different ways you can do it. And two more are apps that I actually have on my phone right now. One app is called Sanvello, Sanvello. That's a mental health app. They have an option for paying for it, but it's generally a free app, and they give you some mental health pushes and some mental health cues. And there's this one called Wizdo, Wizdo, and that's a community of people who can help you and give you advice to help you through life's challenges. Not so much mental health, but it's still just getting some advice and talking to people that's supposed to care about you and things of that nature. So it's a lot. Like I said, our world is different. It's a lot of ways we can get help out.
Okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, go ahead, Sal. You said?
No, I was just saying that's good stuff. Very powerful. I appreciate you.
Okay. Now, we got quite a few listeners, quite a few people who follow us and write to us and ask for advice. We don't give, we get the advice, just, we might not be professional advice. We give a little bit of common sense advice when we go into our mailbag. But what if somebody, like what you said and wanted to reach out to you? They can they reach out to you and ask you for advice or have a session with you? How would they do that?
Absolutely. They could send me an email. My website is in production right now. It should be done next month, but I'll go ahead and give out the website. It'll be forwardcc.net. That's forwardcc.net. Currently, my email is realrehabglobal@gmail.com. And I can actually, if somebody, makes a comment or sends y'all an email, then I can give them my phone number if they reach out. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're definitely gonna put your information in the. You can check in the description on YouTube if you watch this on YouTube or if you listen on SoundCloud. We're gonna have all your contact information there. If someone needs to reach out and do you do now? What do you do? Do you do sit down or do you do it over Zoom or do you do it over the phone or?
Currently, most of my all of my folks or Zoom. All of them are not Zoom, excuse me. I use a HIPAA compliant mental health telehealth now. And it's basically like what we're doing here, but there's supposedly no chance that somebody can hack in, get your information, find out all that stuff about you. So like we're talking right now, there shouldn't be anybody, if me and somebody over Zoom, they shouldn't be able to come in here and find that out. Yeah. So most of it is that. I also do coaching. So my coaching is just coaches calls, but those are just calls on the phone. I really enjoy those. But it's all pretty much Zoom, telehealth, and calls. If somebody feels they need to come into the office, I'm not going to stop from that. Like I said, we'll maintain safe distance. We'll try to be as careful as possible. Like I said, I'm in the office with 2 other guys, and they're definitely still seeing folks. People are still having issues. COVID just exacerbated and made this thing a lot better. COVID, there was a little lull for a minute, but I think we're at the tip of the iceberg, or we're at like a bubble, where this bubble is about to burst as far as how people are going to be seeking mental health. So yeah, if you do need to come in, we're here for you, and we can do that for you.
Okay. I kind of hate that we're going back to this. I should have asked you this earlier, but man, you kind of hinted at it earlier. But how did you get into this, man? What made you decide to get into this?
Man, I needed help. I was working. I was working in management for a company. And I realized quickly that I didn't feel fulfilled. It was very high stress. And I just realized, one day stuff was building. And I just said, man, I got to take a break myself. And I was, like, I think I was telling LeBron, it might've been Salt, but I think I was telling LeBron, I think so. No, it might've been Salt. But anyway, you got to know when you done had enough. And I knew that I had enough. And I went and saw somebody, and it was like a breath of fresh air. And it was funny because I hadn't seen a professional before. So the first time I did it, I picked a white therapist because I was not aware of the option. I wasn't aware of the option. And he did a good job, but I can only imagine what I would have been able to share and felt comfortable sharing with somebody who looked like me, talked like me, walked like me, all that stuff. But after we did that, I started doing some internal work and started thinking about some things that I really want to do in my life. And like I said, it really was like an opportunity to go back to school. Kind of fell into my lap. I wasn't looking for it after me and him got done with therapy. I wasn't looking for going back to school. It might have been like an ad, or it might have been, somewhere. I just remember I wasn't looking for it. And it was like, we got a program for mental health, to get masters for mental health. I went in the program, and the rest is history. And right now I can tell you, like, I feel so fulfilled with what I do every day. Like I said, most therapists are just helpers by nature. And I've been giving myself to folks for years. I've been giving advice for years, listen to people's problems. So it's always good to be able to do what you love to do and make a living from.
That's real interesting. We as a RIP 28 podcast, it's about 7 or 8 of us usually together, and we kind of split it up, based on different topics. But something that we talked about in one of our group meetings was actually going to therapy. And I was surprised. I'm gonna be honest. I was surprised because of the stigma that's in the Black community about therapy. I was surprised that a lot of the brothers on the RIP 28 podcast, we have been through some issues, and we've actually been to therapy. A little bit of self-reveal about myself. When my oldest son passed away, it was something for me. I was going through a divorce at that time, and then my oldest son passed away, and I had an older coworker. He looked at me and he said, "Hey man, you need to talk to somebody. you need to sit down, you need to slow down, and you need to talk to somebody. And therapy was a great thing for me. And I know we've had some other experiences with the brothers on the show too. And so for everybody listening, everybody listening, hold it on. You ain't alone.
Right, that's right.
Right,
That's right.
right.
That's right. Yes, sometimes it takes that. Good. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying you ain't alone for those who listening. You ain't the only one going through it.
I'm glad now that, like I said, in this day and time, like that we are, I think, getting to be more in touch with ourselves. You ain't no punk because you talk about your feelings. You dealing with your stuff, bro, and that stuff will kill you. That stuff will kill you. We deal with stuff that raises our blood pressure. Cause us diabetes. It's all type of stress. That stress that goes on lives within your body and pushes itself out and it manifests itself in other ways. Man, we need to stop. We need to go forward and leave all that, you can deal with it. If you can't deal with it, if you go to the gym and that's your therapy, great. But there are tons of us who do need to be seeing someone. There are tons of us. I think I saw something, last week that out of all the African Americans in the country, I want to say it was Pew Research, that all African Americans in the country, 16% reported a serious mental illness or mental illness last year, like 16%. And it was more than like the cities of Houston, LA, and like another. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people dealing with stuff. And you need to deal with your stuff. And we really need to come together and have more avenues to deal with our stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, a lot of
Jay,
times we wait till we get to that breaking point, and then something snaps, and then sometimes you get in a situation you can't go back. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Deal with it early
it's
than
too
later.
late. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because we wait until it's too late, and now we can't go back and erase that mistake we've made. But Jay, Sly made a point. He was talking about his son and the traumatic experience he had, which leads to my point. I'm raising a young black male. So, my anxiety levels are high now due to, like you said, the things that our country's going through, the things that we're seeing as black males. What are some of those positive things, positive affirmations that we can kind of use to kind of build our sons up? Not only our sons, but our young queens as well, because this is a time we hadn't seen. When we were growing up, times were tough, but it was, I don't like to say it's nothing like it is now. So what are some of those things we can say, some of those daily affirmations we can say to our kids before we let them off at school, daycare, or whatever it may be? And what are some things as a black father that we can do to ensure that our kids, not just our black males, but our queens as well, that they're stable in their mental capacity, their mental thoughts?
Okay. I'm gonna try to answer your question. I'm gonna try. If I don't answer, just let me know. I think the biggest thing to fortify kids' minds is feed them positivity. As black parents, we also know that we have to give them that real. You can't sit up there and sugarcoat stuff because you out there, you have some food stuff happen. So you feed them positivity. And one thing in the therapy that I practice, like I'm a behavioral therapist. So we focus on behaviors and reframing stuff. The biggest things you want to do is take away the shoulds in life. Like a lot of our anxiety and a lot of our stress comes from us placing unrealistic or superficial expectations on things. So like, if I'm saying I should have a great day today, and later on when the day is crappy, you down in the dumps about it. My goal, you can reframe that. My goal is to have a good day. So for those kids, the first thing you want to do, obviously, is let them know that you love them. Let them know that you're proud of them. Let them know that you care about them, and let them know that you will be there for them. Those are the first things. Let them know that I'm your parent, and I love you. And the next thing is, man, just put their frame of mind and frame their words and frame your words for them as, you will. So like, let's say if I was talking to a young man or something, like you talking to your son or a daughter, whatever, you would say, I know I know that you can, instead of saying, I know you're going to be successful, you may know that that kid's going to be successful, but you can say, I know that success is possible because you will work hard, because you can work hard, because hard work brings success. We just reframe it. It's just reframing stuff. Don't put unrealistic expectations on stuff. Does that make sense? That
Makes a lot of sense. It's all about how you talk to them, the
Right.
words you use, the positivity. Yeah, I got you. That sounds real good. We try to make sure we do that every day and let the kids know, even as they come through the hallways, even if you're having a bad day, there's someone in this school building that you can find that cares enough about you to sit down and hear you out and hopefully direct you and your thoughts and your behaviors in the right way. So I'm definitely on board with the positive affirmations and confirming that we do love you and we care about you and we want to see you succeed.
Oh man, we kind of running up against the time, but we want to make sure that this isn't a one-stop shop. This isn't your last time here, Jay. I think I speak for all the brothers on the RIP 28 podcast when we say we want you back, because I think we just skimming the top of this thing right here, man, and we love the contribution that you're giving to us, helping us strengthen our mental health, man, helping us strengthen that. You can work out in the gym, get all your muscles ready, but it's some other muscles, some other strengths you need to build up also. And we want to thank you for taking some time out and talking with us, man. So we're gonna get out of here, but before we go, man, we'll give you one more time, man, to put your information out there, man. Let the world know, how can we reach out to you to get this good information? How do we reach out to you?
Once again, like I said, my website should be up next month. It'll be forwardcc.net, forwardcc.net. If anybody wants to reach out, if anybody reaches out to one of y'all, I'll give y'all my phone number. And currently, you can email me. It's realrehabglobal@gmail, and it's REALrehabglobal@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to talk to anybody and find out what we can do together.
And if they want to get that book, how do they get your book?
Amazon, just search for it. Young Brother, You Got It, or Love Story. Just talk to me.
There you go. LeBron, you got anything to say before we get out of here?
Man, the only thing I want to say is take care of your mental health. It's important. It triggers and it triggers other things in your life. It causes stress that's not needed when you have guys and ladies like Jay that are out there to help you. It does not make you crazy or have something mean something is wrong with you. Reach out, man. Take care of yourself just like you take care of your Jordans.
Gotcha. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, just one thing, two things. I just want to point out also as a resource for those that are listening. I believe there are also, African-American frats and sororities that do also have initiatives that give awareness to mental health. And hopefully we can maybe kind of put some of those resources in the comments too for people to be able to go to. But also too, I know we talked a lot about, our community as African Americans, but I also just want to make sure that people understand, you don't have to necessarily go to, a Black therapist or whatever. The main point is, whether Black, white, Asian, whatever, if you need help, man, just find it somewhere. Don't be scared to, look as if you're weak, or you don't want people to be in your business. But the main point is, do that self-assessment. If, like Jay said, if you're uncomfortable how you're feeling, habits are changing, just reach out to somebody and just start the conversation. That's all I got.
Oh man, thank you. Well, that's gonna be it for the podcast today. But once again, we'd like to thank you guys for joining us here on the RIP 28 podcast. It's a space where some brothers can get together and we're going to talk about something you like. We may talk about something you don't like, but we're going to keep on talking about it, whatever it is. All right, we're going to get out of here, but we're going to let freedom is going to be the name. But since we're talking about mental health and mental freedom, our music for the day is brought to you by Hero. It's called Freedom. We're gonna ride out to that one as we go. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you into me, hope you understand I am not your enemy, nor will I pretend to be. I got these powers like Austin, so all I can see is a bunch of mini-me's. People is killing me, really though, y'all some lame actors. On a ball and chain playing the slave master. Pray to Heavenly Father.